cloud. Hi, everybody. It's a network policy sub-project, working group, whatever, 2021, February 8th. And I got to do the introduction today. So please be very nice to one another. This is an official CNCF call. So let's all be nice to each other. And I'm very excited that I think, according to Matt Fenwick, we may have our first ever in the history of this group demonstration today. But let me see what else is on the agenda first. And I'll share my screen. Let me share my screen here.
Why will you do that, Jay? Do we have anyone attending as the first meeting today? Anyone new that wants to present? Say hello to each other.
UE. I don't recognize UE or Erica. So it looks like we do have a few new people. Feel free to interrupt us and introduce yourself if you all want to.
So maybe I can do a quick hi on behalf of, or rather poke Erica and how, so that they can say something about themselves. But they are part of our team, and they're also interested in what Matt is going to be demoing today. And we hope to collaborate with Matt to extend the tool to future use cases as well and include more features. So Erica, and now do you want to say hi?
Hi everyone, this is Erica from VMware. I work with Abhishek, and this is my first time joining this meeting.
Hi everyone, this is Enhao from VMware also. So me and Erica and Yang and Abhishek, we work in the same team, and glad to join the party. Thanks.
Welcome everyone.
Cool.
Yeah, nice to have you here with us.
Do we have, okay, February 8th, we have kept statuses. We have Satish's follow-up on service selectors. We have Vinay's thing. We have Matt's explainer. Do we want to do like a, let's go through, let's just go through stuff quickly. Kept statuses. I don't have any good news. I didn't even work on mine, but
Hey Jay, do you think we should do you think we need to update that kept, because the freeze is tomorrow, and I think does that affect our status for the namespace selector by name kept?
I think everything is, yeah, everything is like hard coded in there for .20, 21, 22, right? Yeah, I think we should just move it to the next release, honestly. I think that's the best thing to do.
Don't you think that that's going to be merged, Jay? Because last time I saw it was like waiting just for David as review, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's, what do you think, Ricardo? Should I just, I don't mind pushing on getting it merged. I just I've just been so busy with other stuff.
Yeah, let me take a look what's missing.
Came down with the cold for a couple of days, so that kind of made me go into kind of.
Okay, so the last time was
Maslow's hierarchy. I was just like surviving.
I guess you can probably, if you think that's that's something, you should ping David ads in Slack. He's pretty responsive in Slack, just to say, hey, what about this one? Because today is code freeze, but I think also he's crowded with all of the performance reviews things, because all the PRRs they pass through David, Wojtek and John, I guess. So You could ping them, or you can ping like Jim Hawking and say, hey, do you think we are getting this release, or do you think we should wait? Otherwise, you are going to you need to ask for an exception, right? And I don't
Yeah,
know how painful is this exception process.
I just, yeah, I mean, yeah. So let me,
Like you can ping them, being
yeah,
annoying. You don't pay to being annoying, right? You just can say, okay,
no problem being annoying. That's
exactly.
yeah. Let me namespace as name. Yeah, let me ping him. Meanwhile, while I do that, why don't you want to mic shed a little on where we're at with the other ones? I don't know. I think we're doing fine, right? I think yours are going in, right?
Yeah,
But probably just a quick update for new folks.
yeah. So mine is merged, and now and also that Abhishek is reviewing Carlos' PR from the follow up that Jay and Abhishek left about the port, the maximum port. I am honestly, I'm not following the follow up, but if you need me to follow that, I can take a look. And I was talking with this Calico folks about getting that inside the Calico code, but we still need to wait for the release, right? I don't know how Antria folks are doing this, but because they vendor the client go and other stuffs, and in a final release, in a stable release, probably we still have to wait until V121 before getting that merged into Calico code. So I don't know if there is something else to do.
Yeah, we are, I think, going to be prepared with a change, but I think it will be merged only after 1.21 is out sometime in April. But at least we'll start testing it with the release candidates as soon as they're out.
Wait,
Great.
they merged my cap. What? Huh?
Oh, they did? Great.
No, my update. I have an update, Ricardo. My cap got merged, man.
Okay, so you should probably finish. Right. This is like the yeah. You are moving your cap to implementable here. Yeah.
So it's
This
just
is
implementable. I totally forgot to consider
yeah.
that. So now I need to look at where we're at as far as implementable.
Exactly. Do you need some help, Jay, to implement something here, or we can see if someone wants to.
I think all I did was just literally move it to implementable, and then nobody reviewed it. Let me get the right link here.
Okay. Abhishek, do you wanna say
Yeah,
something about the cluster scope and network policy? Otherwise,
yeah, so just a
go
quick
ahead.
update. I think most of you guys were present on, most of you all were present on the Thursday SIG network call where we presented part two for the cluster network policy. And this time we came up with, alternate proposals based on the feedback that we were getting on the presentation and the slide deck that we, put up the link for. And so it seems, being explicit and in terms of the meanings for fields is the most agreed upon way to move forward. So we this week we plan to converge upon a primary proposal based on the alternates and open up a cap for the next cycle. So that's the status.
Great.
Yours is for sure going into 1.21. I'm just adding notes here, Ricardo.
Yeah, it's already measured.
Okay. Satish, what's going on with service selector? The most dramatic project other than the cluster scope network policies, which we've ever tried to do.
Yeah, AJ. Yeah, so I think so last time we discussed about the proposal and we fairly like simplified the scope of this, I think, cap, because there are a lot of use cases that can be, solved or like that can be covered using this proposal. Like when I say proposal, the term service selector can be meant for different use cases, but I think we fairly simplified. I mean, we reduced the scope of it to like have or like support only the backend pods and the ports associated with it. Um,
Can you,
so, so
can
one
you make that
thing.
like world readable? For some reason, I can't access that doc. Or
I think we need to start creating documents, not using Google accounts, Satish, so that it becomes easier to share it.
Okay, yeah, let me make it.
So you have a public private email ID, right, that you use for GitHub for your source code contribution. Use that account if possible. So this
Sure.
is a common issue that we keep running it all the time. So let's not create documents using the Google account.
Yeah, sure. Let me do that.
Yeah.
I can't access my own Google Docs half the time, so like don't feel bad. This is
Yeah.
I don't think Matt can even access Google.com, so it is work well.
I think it becomes more problematic, I think, when you're trying to share it with outside of the Google org. So, and especially when you're working in open source community, I think it's, but this is not the first time I've seen this thing a couple of times. So I've been trying to get everyone to start creating documents outside and share it. So we'll try to do a better job next time.
Sure, yeah, or whatever. Anyways, go on. What go on, Satish?
Yeah, so I think so we had like a couple of alternatives for like how where the field should be introduced in the net policies spec. So I think I mean, the folks from this group has provided a lot of feedback in the last presentation. So I was actually looking for more feedback. I mean, or like which way is better than the other, so that I mean, also like this being my first step, I'm actually looking for next steps, like trying to like where we should go from the discussion that we had before, like in the last meeting. So should we look to have like more examples and use cases so that we solidify the proposal, or should we have like more internal discussions in this group, or should we go to networking group, like sig networking? So I'm just actually looking for suggestions here, and probably like what's the the next step based on the reviews that we had until now.
My first question would be to you, what do you want to do next? Like, I'm sure we've all got different opinions, but what would you like to do next? Like, what do you think in a world where you could do whatever you wanted?
So I think so probably we should identify like, I mean, so which addresses like the most of the use cases, whether the first approach are different. So from what I can say, I think both the approaches have its own advantage, but again, and it's cons as well, right? So I'm just trying to see if there is actually a general feedback from more folks, so that we decide one or the other one is better than um, one or the other is better. So once we have that, I think probably like we can have like some kind of slide deck to like make it review, like have it reviewed by more folks, I guess, probably like from SIG networking. And
Do you want to have a long KEP process and get reviews then, or do you want to have like a really efficient KEP and get as much feedback as possible beforehand? I mean, you can kind of do it either way, I guess, really.
So you're saying the first approach would have like the KEP started already, and like you have all the discussion on the KEP itself, or the other approach is like the more discussion would happen on the doc and presentation, and the KEP would be mostly like ready to get to a sort of state. Is that what you're saying? I mean, I just wanted to understand like the difference between those two approaches.
Yeah, I mean, do you feel like you've got a lot of feedback on it, or you feel like you need more feedback on it?
I think it's somewhere in the middle. So probably like I did get a lot of feedback from few folks, but probably like more folks would be ideal.
I would just put something on the mailing list and ask folks if how they'd like to proceed with it. What do y'all think?
I agree with Jay. If you feel that's the time to gather some more feedback, so Satish, so probably it would be good to post the document in Sig Network mailing list. I don't know, I can't remember if you already did that, but if not, you can do that and gather also some feedback from the brother group, from the brother Sig.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I think.
And be prepared for a lot of comments.
Yeah. That should be okay.
So
So
one
I
quick
think.
question.
Mhm.
Sorry. One quick question. Do you have open questions that we have not yet looked at, or a list of questions that we have not yet discussed, or something that you're still 50-50 on? So
Not really. Yeah,
maybe
most
if you
of the
could
questions.
list down things that you still want us to discuss and something that we have not touched upon, maybe those questions, and then maybe we can try to look offline or into the doc and try to answer those questions. And
Okay.
then
Yeah,
the
yeah.
other suggestions by Ricardo and Jay. I think that also makes sense.
Yeah, thanks, Abhishek. Yeah, that makes sense. So I will actually add a section at the end so that like all the open questions, so that yeah, people can take a look at it. But yeah, so most of the open questions I had, like we briefly discussed them last week. So probably, uh, so we haven't. I mean, like it's as far as I know. I mean, like we haven't decided on one way or the other. Probably like we should. Um, so what I can do is like, so I'll add a section to describe those open questions in more detail and probably and reach out to more people, I guess.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
Okay, so you're going to go for another round of internal feedback before you go.
Yeah, sure, definitely. I think one other thing I can actually do is like, so I will actually try to list down all the use cases and have like how the proposal would look for each of those use cases. I think so that would be the next step. So like all the uh, like the small details will be like shown more clearly and explicitly, I think. So so my thinking is like probably we're gonna have like one more internal review.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks for doing this, Satish. We've had 3 people come and almost do this and then not do it, and then you got in here and you wrangled it, and you're really getting close to what I think is like the finish line here, which is going up to Sig Network and actually showing it to people. So that's really cool. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, Jay. Yeah, thanks for helping out. Like, yeah, so this is an awesome group trying to help. So, yeah, that helps a lot.
Okay. Let us know if you need anything. You can reach out to us offline too if you want. Okay. What else is going on? Vinay, service account selectors.
Yeah. So what I've first, so there's a document that I've been sitting on it for a while. I haven't, so I just like put a link there in the doc. But before we do that, I was wondering if we could spend a few minutes going through the network policy API use cases. And I think I did add towards the end of the document the section. Okay, here, can you share the network policy API use cases, Doc? Jay?
Yeah, what is that? Which one?
Here,
So
let
many.
me send you the link.
I think there's
This
there's
is,
one in Google, right? Somewhere.
no, this is not, this is a regular one. Hey, let me put the link in.
Yeah, go ahead and give me a link. I'll share it. Give it to me in Zoom here. Okay. Cool.
Scroll all the way to the bottom.
Okay.
Yeah, I added this part, but I think I put it in the edit mode, and I think I just want to have a couple of minutes of discussion, and then the proposal that I have is the other link that I pasted in the meeting notes. So the basic premise being that so today, like when we have individual pods running, they all run within the context of a service account. If the service account is not doesn't exist, it automatically uses the default in that namespace. But there are some instances where, for example, I'm sure it's the same in different cloud providers too. So there are situations where some of the pods that are running, they need access to like external services, which are restricted for whatever reason. So they need to be audited or for whatever reason. So what you like to do is you like to run those pods with a different service account. So when you have that, it would make sense to also have the ability to expand the network policy pod selectors, namespace selectors based on service account, so that it makes it easier. Because if you want to only target certain pods which are using a certain service account, then if they're running across different pod selectors, then you need to list them all. And then, so instead, this becomes a much more surgical, and you can apply to only the pods that require the policy. So this is the main reason behind that.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen this before, though. I've seen stuff like that. I've seen IT people ask for stuff like that before.
Yeah. So there is a use case for this thing. So what I was thinking was, it would be useful to have this. And so what I did was, I put in a little proposal. I put it sometime like in December last year, but I was supposed to work on it, but I haven't done a good job. But I'm going to put the proposal out there. It's still in a very early draft stage. If anyone wants to collaborate, just ping me. We can work on the document. So this is a high level. So if anyone has any additional use cases that they would like to add, let me know, and I'm happy to add it to the doc.
When you say service account, like, is there like some flexibility on how you define that? Like, could it be like an RBAC type thing, or like is it more like identity based policies that you're really looking for?
Yes. So the use case I think it will become more clearer if I use a specific example, and then we can zoom out from that. So for example, for example, you have a pod that is trying to access a cloud service. Like, let's say, I'm going to pick on Google because that's where I work. So it is trying to use some machine learning APIs or storage or some compute APIs. And then typically what happens is you need to provide the Kubernetes service account some roles, IAM roles, and that also actually get tracked to a Google service account that gets all these roles and permissions. That's how you control those access. Now, if I wanted for whatever reason to be that access to be restrictive by nature, then what I would like to do is don't want to use the default service account that comes with each namespace. So that is the scenario that I'm talking about. So having said that, that is a specific example. So let's zoom out. So your question was, is it used as identity? Yes, it is. In short, but I'm sure there are a lot of nuances around that concept. But I think the short answer is yes. But it is at the pod level.
I'm also reading the Calico docs, and they support the service account, right? But that's the opposite. That's saying that a pod that uses a service account can have some ingress, some network policies, and this way limiting, like,
I see. So what is
the cluster operator? Yeah.
So what does the Calico documentation say, Ricardo?
Yeah.
Can you put a reference to that?
Yeah, sure. I'm gonna post here. Yeah, so that's here. Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's all right.
Yeah.
That's good. If you can add it to the meeting notes so that then I can, you don't have to. By the
Sure.
way, is anybody from Calico also here in this meeting, or do they show up for these meetings?
Sometimes they do.
I
I
see.
don't know. We haven't seen them recently, but every once in a while we'll get a Calico.
I see. Okay. Let me. I'll go take a look at it, and I'm sure. I don't want to look at it right now because I'm talking to you guys, but yeah, I'll take a look at it and see if there's any similarities. If not, then I would like to definitely engage them also to work with us on this. Because I want to like,
as a group, we need to look into OPA and what we can do with it, and whether or not we should give people some blueprints for how they can use OPA for some of these things, because we keep
no, but
like avoiding hierarchical namespaces and OPA and all these other tools, and looking at how we can use them for workarounds. I mean, not that we shouldn't improve the API, but
right. I mean, so
yeah.
So I was mostly thinking about using the service account either to select the pods or to select the ingress. Right. For example, if you look at the link that I've shared in the doc, if you go back to the meeting notes, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I've given comment access to anyone. So if anybody needs edit access, just let me know. I'm happy to look at it. So I'm happy to like open up the. I didn't know. So what is the convention? Do you make it edit worldwide public edit or comment? How do you guys do
I
it?
always make everything completely open for people to edit.
Okay, so is that the way? Okay.
No, that's not the way. That's just the way I do it. Some people
Okay.
do. Usually towards the end, I'll make it comment only so that it stops.
Okay, so what? Okay, I just made everybody editors for this talk, so I just changed the permissions. And so hopefully if people make suggesting changes, then we can review the suggestions and then accept. So I'm sure this is in the very early drafty stage. I just enumerated the two use cases scenarios, and then so this basically boils down to like having a different type of a selector, service account selector, for applied to.
Yeah, since you're working with you're working with Satish. Satish is kind of going through some of these too, so maybe
Yeah. I'm yeah.
Satish and I work together. That's good. Okay. Anybody have any thoughts on this?
I mean, and since I'm presenting it for the first time, if people can take a look at it and make suggesting changes, and I'll go through this in a little bit more detail. And if anybody wants to collaborate, let me know, and take it from there.
I only have one other question in the selector. Is there any? This is a broad question. Is there any like? Is a service account like a? So I guess are you defining exactly what you mean by service account in here?
Yeah, I'm using the same the semantics of the service account are the same as a Kubernetes service account.
As a regular Kubernetes one. Okay, cool. Yeah. Okay.
I think I'm just glancing at the Calico link that Ricardo that you posted, and they do something similar too. They call it service accounts. Yeah.
Yeah, they also use the concept of service account as an identification. Sorry, folks. To issue and some service mesh like a multi-factor authentication, because service account is mostly the token that's inserted inside the pod, right? So they use that also as some sort of ID.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't insert it, then it uses the default for the namespace.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to
Sure.
better understand what Calico is trying to do and see if I missed a use case, and then I'll add it to the doc.
So what's the outside of cluster mode that you would use this? You would, can you use a Kubernetes, an actual Kubernetes v1.service account from outside of a cluster? I don't even know.
If you have the
Mapping.
if you know about the certificate authority, yes, you can, because the service account is a some sort of JWT, I guess, token signed by the CA from Kubernetes.
Okay.
But I
think
still have to verify, Jay. But I guess it's how it works. Go ahead, Satish. Sorry.
no. So I was going to ask Jay.
Vinayak,
So,
sorry.
that's all right. So Jay, I think what you're asking is, how does the service account in Kubernetes map to the outside world? Was that your question?
Yeah, like, do people do that? I didn't.
Yeah. So you can do the mapping, right? I mean, you can totally map the service account, and then the cloud provider software will have to deal with that.
Okay, cool. Well, for people that that don't know about that, that might be an interesting thing to talk
I
about.
see. So, by the way, you have edit access, Jay. Add yourself as a.
Well, I'll just okay.
Then edit or make changes, suggesting changes, and we can take it from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should have shared this document.
This isn't even a network policy question. This is just a general thing that I'm just ignorant of. So feel free to ignore my comment. I can Google it myself. But yeah, it might be useful background. Anything else? That's really cool. Thanks, Vinay.
No problem.
Yeah.
I mean, this should not be. This is extending one more selector type for selecting the pods and ingress traffic. Go ahead, Ricardo. Sorry.
No, just going to say, if you need some sort of help or feedback, don't be shy to ask that in Slack. Also, sometimes like I have like a lot of open tabs here in my browser. Probably everyone has. So if we forgot, or if you need something else, don't wait until the meeting.
Okay.
We are here to help you.
I wonder if this is like an L7, because I know who was working on the L7. Was it Gopal or Govind or Andrew? I forgot. Someone was working on L7 stuff, and I wonder whether this is like part of that.
Thomas Breath actually opened from Cilium opened that in repo, and I was taking a look into that. But Antonio made a good question about if this is a network policy or if this is a service API thing. No one.
That would apply to this too. That whatever that question is would apply to this too, right? So that's one thing that you're going to want to disambiguate. So I'll add that comment also, which is that let's figure out whether, we may want to get feedback from like Bowie or Antonio. I don't know. This is. Yeah. What is is anyone actively working on L7? I don't even know. I'm just.
Yeah, I've sent the issue to you.
Okay.
In chat about this is open in.
We should probably next week. We should probably. Yeah. I'll add that for next week. We should follow up and see what's going on there. I don't.
So what is the L7 thing, Jay?
Well, I don't even know what it is anymore. I just something that people wanted, and like you want, right?
Yeah.
People want L7 policies, right? And someone was working on figuring out how to do that at some point. And now that someone is you, Vinay. You're
okay.
You're L7 guy now, I guess. And evidently Thomas Graff is, but he's not here, so. As far as
Basically, when
this
I
group is concerned, you're the only person working on L7 that I know of, right?
basically when I this is more about allowing or denying traffic based on HTTP headers.
Okay.
So I do plan to take a look at L7, but not right away. Eventually, but
Okay.
if you can get there before me, that's great.
Sure. That is something that sounds very interesting, and I think um, I have some ideas on that because I've worked on that in the past, more at the virtualization networking layer. So I'm happy to discuss if you want
We should probably go to Matt's demo because we've only got 20 minutes left. I just
to. Okay.
And then if you want to hang out after and talk more, I'm happy to. Matt, you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. Go for it, man.
All right, I'm gonna share my screen.
Matt's got some interesting stuff. He's got this netpal fuzzer to generate all these different scenarios based on our work with building like a kind of a universal validator for CNIs that has truth tables. And so he's kind of extended that into the next kind of obvious, well, non-obvious thing, which is completely auto-generating all the policy scenarios.
It says I can't share my screen. Host disabled participant screen sharing.
Hold on, let me give you screen share. How do I?
You need to assign Matt as a co-host.
Oh, okay. So now I do participants, share screen, advanced sharing options. Is that it? Who can share? Oh, I can't do that. Ricardo, are you
I think
admin?
Hold on, Jay. I will.
There he is.
Okay.
like it worked. All right, cool. All right, thanks everybody. Yeah, so hey everybody, Matt Fenwick here. I've kind of been lurking through these meetings for a couple months. So nice to actually have something useful to show everybody. At least I hope it's useful.
It's our first demo. It's great.
Yeah. So I work at Synopsys, and Synopsys, we do some software security, some like software scanning for validation and security and stuff like that. So from that was how I kind of got interested in network policies, because we use those things internally in K8s clusters, but also potentially, who knows, maybe it could lead to a product in the future. So I was working on the truth tables that Jay mentioned and the upstream Kubernetes netpal tests. I don't know if you've seen that stuff, but basically some more stuff came out of that. And because of the discussion that we had in SIG networking last week, we talked about changing the API and how difficult it is to understand what netpals are doing, because you have all these implicit behaviors and like one thing overrides another thing, but it's hard to tell if that's going to happen or not. So what I kind of ended up doing was, to solve a different problem, I just ended up writing something that can explain all that stuff for me, so I can have some idea of what's actually going on with the network policy. So I wanted to show that to you real quick, and just take any questions or whatever. And let me start that off. Okay, cool. So this is in GitHub, open source, MIT license, whatever. You can do whatever you want with it, but I'm also happy to collaborate with anybody on anything if you feel like it's somewhat related. Just yeah, feel free to ping me on Slack or whatever. All right, cool. So I got 4 things to show you, 4 different ways of kind of slicing and dicing network policies. And these are all based off a few simple network policy YAMLs. So the first one that you can do is just get a basic explanation of what these network policies do. All right, so the way this is organized is you have your ingress and your egress, and then you have your targets. So target is just a namespace and a pod selector, right? That's the thing in a network policy that gets isolated whenever you first apply a rule to it. Then you can see what rules led to that target. And then you have your peer and your port protocol. So a peer is either, an IP CIDR, or it's a group of pods that can talk to your pod. So in this case, since this is ingress, these would be pods that can issue requests to our target. So you can see for this first target up here, namespace Y, and then it matches labels pod A. So we don't allow anything by IP, but we do allow pods in namespace Y, with labels pod C, and then all ports and all protocols. So, I mean, this is pretty straightforward, but there's a little bit of magic here, which is that if you have, you know, like one policy that denies something and one policy that allows something, as you all know, the allow is going to override the deny. So you'll get that resolved in this level. And also, if you have multiple policies that target or that hit the same target, then those will also get combined for you. So you can see, you know, you don't have to think across multiple policies at the same time. All right, cool. Any questions about that? Does that make sense?
Just to clarify, if I have two network policies, both apply to pod A, labels pod A, and you're saying that this tool will compress those policies into a single row in this table for the pod A and tell you what kind of traffic is allowed. You won't see multiple rows for the same selectors. Is that correct?
It's not going to like delete anything, but like insofar as rules can be compressed, it will do that. So like if you have a rule that allows port 80 and another rule that allows all ports, it'll just tell you all ports. You know, you won't see the rule 80 anymore because there's no point in having it.
Got it.
But yeah,
is it across policies or it's only
yes,
within that particular policy?
Right. No, it's across policies. So it'll combine everything regardless of what policy it came from.
Got it. That's great. Thanks.
Yeah, this is great, Matt. So one quick question, like for example, if let's say you had a policy with two, let's say similar policies, but the selected the targets. Let's use ingress as an example. Let's say you pick namespace Y, pod A, and then you have another same exact policy says namespace Z and pod select all ports with label B. Would it like combine that? So in this display, would it combine that?
No, those would be separate because they're separate targets. And the reason for having that target focus is because, you know, you get that target isolation. As soon as you apply one policy to a target, you know, everything is denied except for the stuff that's allowed. But until you do that, you know, everything is like implicitly allowed.
So you do more of the coalescing mostly happens from the peer and the port protocol, but not at the target type.
Yeah, I guess you combine the targets. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, you would have all the targets there, but then all the policies for that target combined. And then, yeah, like you're saying, the peers and the protocols and ports, those things will actually get like smushed and you might see some of the denials disappear. So there's more aspects to your question, which I want to, you know, hopefully I'll get to in the next. Yeah, so that's part one. I want to show you all some more stuff. All right, so that's just a bunch of policies. So now in this one, what you can do is you can take a pod, and a pod has a namespace and it has labels, and you can actually see like what's all the stuff that applies, you know, to this specific pod. So in the previous one, you could have multiple, well, here you go. Like we're looking at pod Y, labels pod A, right? So you have a couple of different targets that apply to it. So to actually resolve like what's going to happen, you have to combine those two targets, right? And combine all the rules in there. So down here, you have like a combined ingress, right? So you can see that all the source rules from up here, these two and this one get combined down here. So you have a deny all for Y and all pods, right? We don't allow any IPs, you don't allow any pods, you don't allow any ports or protocols. But when you resolve that, you combine it with a different target for this specific pod, and now all of a sudden you're not denying stuff anymore. So you're kind of adding another level to the interpretation here. So of course you're doing that for ingress and for egress as well, but then those two steps separately. So then you have a combined ingress, you know, policy, I guess, that you would apply to a specific pod, and a combined egress. So basically the idea here is, okay, I have an actual pod sitting in my cluster. Tell me what policies are going to apply to that, you know, at this point in time based on the actual labels that are in there.
So you always have those four fundamental ingress.
Say it again?
So you always have those two matching targets and combined rules. Okay.
Yeah, whatever rules you have, that, like, sorry, these should be source network policies, I guess. Whatever network policies led to this target, you'll still have them listed down here just so you have some idea that like, okay, like I tried to write this network policy that target this pod. It actually did happen. You know, somebody that ruled out everyone else.
Just one question.
Yes.
So so I'm actually talking about the rules where we have two rows, right? Where it shows is actually no IPs and yeah, no IPs and no ports and no protocols.
Right.
So is it because, I mean, I see that it's actually getting populated by the network policy that actually isolates all the ports, all the pods. But isn't it the case that we should exclude that row, because the default behavior is that with the combined network policies, it would allow the traffic from ingress traffic from namespace Y and
Right.
pods selected by pod is equal to C.
Right. Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that this is one of the really weird and confusing areas of network policies. So the way that this is going to work is that, like, this isn't a deny, this is just not an allow. So we're not specifically allowing any IPs, but it doesn't mean that we're denying IPs. So if something else came along and allowed an IP, you know, then it would, you know, like sort of override this rule. I guess it's just the way that I think about policies. And it's kind of an artifact of the model that I built.
Okay.
I mean, if there's something that I'm doing wrong, I definitely want to fix that. But I think that it just might be a weird corner case of network policies.
Yeah, I guess he's trying to actually model the way that you actually think about the connectivity graph as opposed to model the network policy API, sort of, right?
Right. Yeah. Because, like, you can allow by IP or you can allow by pod, right? And either way, you know, you could have two different things that apply to the same pod and either one will allow it. But just because you don't allow any IPs, it doesn't mean that your IPs would be blocked. I don't know. Yeah, this is why I built the thing, because it was so confusing and it was so hard for me to keep track of these things and separate them out that I just needed something to look at that just told me, like, this is what your policy is doing, you know, and I'll resolve those corner cases and stuff for you. But anyway, yeah, like, if you think I did something wrong, definitely reach out to me and I'd love to figure that out and do it right. Great question.
Hey, Matt. This is Yang here. I also have a question about the collapsing of the policies. So if you look at the table that's that is shown right here in the ingress rows, on the first row, I think it says namespace Y match labels pod A, and it has, you know, all these rules. And then down there it says namespace Y all pods, and there's a different rule. So do you mean by this is namespace Y all pods except match labels pod equals A? Is that
No, what this means is that, like, there is a rule that targeted all pods in namespace Y. And
I see.
There's separate rules that targeted these. So just like
so essentially you need to reason with those two rules combined to figure out what's actually happening to pod A still.
Exactly, yeah. So pod A matches both of these targets, right? Because it matches this, but it also matches all pods.
Oh, okay. So is the rows sorted in that order, where you will say that whatever comes first will having the highest, you know, precedence on?
I don't think that there's any precedence or order. I think it's just, if anything allows you, then you're allowed. And if you're isolated but you're not allowed, then you're blocked. And if you're not isolated, then you're allowed. So that's my understanding of this.
No, I think you're right. This follows the same union rules that we have for network policy, right? So there should not be any precedence here. This is following the network policy.
Yeah, I agree there will be no precedence, but you know, for me it's kind of confusing, because if I come with, you know, Y/A, I will see there I have a match on two places. Now one says, you know, I'm allowed, and one says I'm not. So
right, that's the point of this thing down here. Like, okay, this is just trying to establish provenance, so you know that, like, if I just gave you the final, like, actually this is for myself. If I just gave myself the final answer, then I'd be like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
So the idea here is to show you, like, this is where it came from, and then this down here is the final result.
I see. That makes sense to me.
But yeah, like, that can be confusing. So definitely, like, you know, I'm happy to, you know, clean this up and make it more clear, easy to understand or something. All right, cool. So let me move on. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, two things to ask here. The first question is on the first diagram. Oh, sorry, first example that you gave. If in this case the pods are matching certain label selectors, and you're showing the rules that are allowing that traffic. What if a pod is not selected by any of the label selectors? Then what would the output look like? Because in that case, since it's not part of any target, it should be allowed for all. But how do you express that?
Yeah, let me see if I can quickly put together an example for that.
And while you're putting that together, the other question is in your second example, you mentioned that we can see what's happening on a pod or what policies are applied to the pod, ingress, egress. Is your input a label selector, or is your input the name of the pod or name reference to the pod?
So you're saying for this one?
Yes. So the input here, is it a reference, or is it certain labels?
It's like, imagine you had a pod. So a pod would have a namespace and would have actual labels. So that's the idea behind this command, is to, like, give me the actual namespace of a pod and the actual labels of a pod. Obviously, it's just a test, so I'm not pulling this from Kubernetes or anything, but.
Yeah, so if can we extend it to in a way that, if I have a name of the pod and namespace of the pod, can I say that, this is my pod and I want to see the rules on that, instead of figuring out the labels of that pod? And it's just, I think you just need to figure out the labels of the pod, and then you have, the rest of your magic will continue to work.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that would be a great feature. Obviously, like what I was trying to do here was model the actual like network policy thing, which is kind of, yeah, like it's kind of weird, but like it doesn't care about the pod name, and so I didn't include the pod name here. But
correct, yeah, but as a user, maybe I just want to see, this pod is not working. I want to figure out what policies are, allowing, denying traffic here. So, right. My user experience would be better if I can just say pod X and now tell me what policies. And I think internally you can just derive the labels from the pod and figure the rest.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Feel free to reach out to me. We can figure that out. And for your other question, like this is what it looks like if no targets match. This isn't telling you if anything is allowed or denied. It's just telling you that nothing matches. So the next step would actually tell you whether something is allowed or denied. All right. So what we're doing here is we are actually, pretending like we have traffic. So our traffic is on a port and a protocol. Our source, we can give it an IP. This is like an external source, so something outside of our cluster, and then it's coming into our cluster. Here's our namespace labels, pod labels. So what would happen if this came into if this traffic was in our cluster? So we have this ingress, which denies it, and then we have no egress, so this is not going to be allowed. Let's see.
Oh, so it's a what if tool.
Right, exactly, yeah. So here we have an example where we have no ingress rules that match. You can see our traffic up here. This is kind of the opposite way. So now this is traffic going out of the cluster. So of course we have no ingress rules that match. We have an egress that allows and an egress that denies. So that's an allow.
I'm worried that if a CNI provider made a CNI plugin that became self-aware, it could take advantage of this tool.
Yeah, I guess that'd be a validation the tool's useful, right? So then in our last example down here, we have ingress that allows, egress that denies. And so that's actually going to be a deny, because as far as I understand it, you have to both allow ingress and egress in order for your traffic to be allowed.
I think we got only 2 minutes left, Matt. I think there's a lot more to, can we, if you don't mind, can we go through this thing again, the next meeting, spend a little bit more time, because this is very interesting stuff for me.
Sure, yeah. I'll just put up the last one real quick.
I'd only known we could have cut short our other conversations.
Yeah. I'll just show you the last one real quick, just to whet your appetite for next time. So basically, this is like the whole shebang. You take all your pods and you see if they can talk to all your other pods. And this is what we do in the upstream tests, and it, I think, really gives you a lot of information. But anyway, yeah, I'll drop a link to Cyclonus in Slack, and I'm happy to work with anybody on this. Like, if you're looking at adding to the network policy API or something like that, and you think that this could be helpful for you, I'd love to, I'd love to work with you.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested, and I have we have a lot of interest in this tool. So maybe what we can do is if we can have a discussion, like in my couple other people that I know who are interested from my team, and then next week, I know if there is like enough time, then maybe we should continue this discussion next week.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, anybody is welcome to reach out. I'm happy to do what I can.
Thanks. All right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, yeah, and thanks for
Yeah, it'd be great. It'd be great if you could also share, whatever you said today, read doc or something that will help others. That'd be pretty helpful.
Right. Great. Thanks. That was awesome presentation. Thanks, Matt.
So let's do a follow-up next week on this. This is cool.
Sure.
I also want to see those CNI failures that you were telling me about. That's the thing I'm most interested in.
Yeah.
With the different Cilium, Calico, Antrea, all that stuff.
Right.
Okay. Anybody else got anything before we jump? Okay. All right. You all can go back to playing video games or whatever you were doing before this.
See you, folks. Have a nice week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.